cruzaré porque somos chicanos. Porque somos chicanos de East LA. Ay, arriba y arriba. Ay, arriba y arriba y arriba iré. Yo no creo en fronteras. Yo no creo en fronteras. Yo cruzaré, yo cruzaré, yo cruzaré.
Contra leyes racistas, en Arizona, ahí arriba y arriba, ahí arriba y arriba y arriba. Yo no soy de la migra, yo no soy de la migra, ni lo seré, ni lo seré, ni lo seré.
Nos creamos nuestra familia y arriba y arriba, ahí arriba y arriba y arriba iré. Yo no soy marinero, yo no soy marinero, soy chicano, soy chicano, soy chicano.
Oh, I love that song. I love that. Wasn't that great? Yeah. Makes me want to dance. Thank you for being here today at this grand finale session. Haven't Angie and her team been doing a fabulous job? This is just like, do one of these, or like a thumbs up or a little love, a little heart, something. Y'all have been doing great. It's been so exhilarating to be with all of you. I'm Shelly Kiala. I'm the Executive Director of the International Festival of Arts and Ideas. I'm a guest here with INTEMPO. It's an honor to be supporting the vision of Angie Durrell and her team. I'm also speaking to you from the native land of the Wappinger, Paugussett, and Quinnipiac on the land that we now know as New Haven, Connecticut. I'm zooming in from New Haven, Connecticut. Following the presentation today, there will be a guided Q&A session. So, please stick around. You'll have a chance to ask questions, and you'll probably feel that it's interactive throughout, but know that you'll have a chance for a more guided Q&A after the more presentation part of the evening. And we'll have simultaneous dub translation available in Spanish via the Zoom control feature. So feel free to engage with that. So on behalf of all of the partnering organizations, I am very honored to welcome with us today Las Cafeteras, hailing from Los Angeles, California. You are truly in for a treat, and I am really looking forward to them coming back and being here in person with us in Connecticut in 2022. That's the dream that we are manifesting. So Cafeteras, take it away. It is yours.
Hola, everybody. We're so happy to be here with you all. I am Denise and I have Hector here también conmigo. Es un placer, super excited to be here with you all to talk about organizing, to talk about the power of community coming together. We, Las Cafeteras, always say we are storytellers before we are musicians. And the roots of Las Cafeteras is reimagining a world where many worlds fit. So what a lot of folks don't know about us is that this was never the plan, right? That music was actually a gift offered to us that became a tool for us to be able to share the stories of our communities, of our families, and to build a collective story across the United States and outside of this country as well, right? We want to challenge the narrative, right? That we're going downhill from here. We are not, we are building up, right? And again, as Las Cafeteras, we took the Zapatista spirit and said, todo para todos, nada para nosotros, everything for everyone, nothing for myself. Son Jarocho is the music that we started playing, and in the reflection of Son Jarocho, right, the call and response, the acknowledgement of each other, that in la que verá, that you are the other me. We practice this not only in writing our stories, but also in listening and witnessing the testimony that is each and every one of our community members. So myself, I'm actually a clinical social worker. Before I did any kind of music, a lot of my work was around gender justice and community mental health. Hector worked as an organizer in East LA, really focusing on educational justice that was very much youth-led, right? And Daniel, who's not here with us today, he was a faith-based organizer, and we all met at the South Central Farm, making sure that the land belonged to the people and that we still work towards that goal. Right? Again, in the spirit of the Zapatistas, horizontal leadership, looking at how we in our communities can look at the power, the beauty, and the skills that we already have to build a world where we find that we live in a dignified way, in a just way, and in a joyful and revolutionary way. Porque eso también cuenta, right? Being happy and joyful is also part of the pie. And Las Cafeteras, we say, you know what? We can talk about the struggle, we can talk about the resistance, but we're gonna dance while we do it. Vamos a dar un grito while we do it because we exist, right? And the generations that come after that, they deserve it too. They really do. So before I do more weedy, porque me gusta platicar, yesterday was Cinco de Mayo and I'm still like all excited. I'm gonna bring up my friend Hector Flores. He's gonna ask you all to answer some questions. So please, if you feel called to, please put your little faces on that camera. We want to make sure we make that eye contact. Get in the chat because we like chisme. I'm just going to put it out there. We're going to be asking you all some questions. So we might have you all unmute later on today, but please get in that chat and let's have a communal and community-minded conversation because we will build this world together. And today is only the first day, right? Okay, so Hector, come on. Also, he likes when y'all snap for him. So please, let's snap up Hector Flores. You have the floor, my friend.
Orale. All right, everybody. What's up? What's up? What's up? My name is Hector El Feo Más Bello Flores. So my mama, she was the oldest of 14 kids, and 6 of her brothers and sisters are deaf. So I grew up signing. And I feel like in Zoom, it's been a wonderful place where we get to learn, nonverbal communication. So I'd love to show you some signs just so we can communicate in Zoom in a way that's actually part of a language. Sign language and deaf culture is real, and like we could practice it here. So here we go. All right, sign number one. Sign number one. So this is how we clap in the deaf community. You go like this. So everybody put your hands up like this. I want to see them hands up. If you got a bass on your wall, I want to see your hands up. Here we go. Orale, Gary. I saw you, Gary. I saw you. Okay, great. Hands down. Okay. If you like what somebody says and you're like, oh, yeah, but they're talking, you just give that snap. Like you're in a New York bar. You're like, oh, yeah, I'm down with that. All right. If you want to say yes in sign language, like, yes, you go like this. Oh, yeah. Go like that. Yes, yes, yes. En inglés. Oui, en francés. Obrigado en portugués. If you want to say no, you go like this. Nah, I don't like what you said. Like that.
And then my favorite one right here. If someone says something that's just out of the world, and you're like, yo, that's BS, bro. That's BS. You go like this, right? You get these little ones. You put them on your hand, and you go like that. That's BS. You go, Hector, the earth is not flat. That's BS. I don't believe it. And you take that BS, you put it in your garden, and you make beautiful flowers. Okay? That's what you do. Okay, now we got all kinds of signs to communicate. So the next one we're going to do right here is do this icebreaker called Where You From? Okay? And what I want you to do, and in the chats, what I want everybody to do in the chat is I want you to answer 3 questions. And don't start. You got to wait till I say go. All right? I know there's some early birds out there that like to get all crazy. Don't start yet. So here we go. 3 questions I want you to answer in the chat is I want you to share your name, your full name. Okay? Number 2, I want you to share where you were born. But don't just say Connecticut. Don't just say the East Coast, California. Now that's boring. I want you to say the name of the city, the hospital, the time. Put in your sign if you know it. You know? I want you to get those specifics in there. And the last thing I want you to do is I want you to share where your parents were born. And if you weren't raised by your parents, then maybe it's your grandparents. Where were they born? Or your caretakers, whoever raised you. And I want you to share, again, the pueblo, the city, the hospital, the time. I want you to share that in the chat. Okay? I'm going to give everybody a minute to write that in there. Okay? While we introduce ourselves. So on the count of 3, I want you to write the information in the chat and while we introduce ourselves, and that's going to help this activity. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, chat it up. Go for it. In the chat. Okay, my name is Hector Paul Flores, even though my mom only calls me Pablo. I was born in a little barrio in East LA called City Terrace, Santa Marta Hospital, 139 North Humphreys Boulevard at 5:45 p.m. My mama's from Morelia, Michoacan, Mexico. I don't know the name of the hospital. My pops is from a little barrio in north of Sonora, just under the border, called San Luis Rio Colorado. It's where the Colorado River ends, just under Yuma, Arizona. I went to Cal State University, Long Beach, got my degree in Chicano Studies and Sociology. And I'm a Leo, baby, through and through. I'm going to pass it on to Denise. Go for it.
Hello again. Y'all are being shy. Nobody's put in their information.
Oh, I'm sorry. Victoria said born.
What do you mean by born?
Oh, so what I said is, 1, where were you born? So the city you were born in, the name of the hospital, the time you were born, right? If you know the street, whatever, of where you were born and where your parents were born. And if you don't know where your parents were born,
there
you
we
can
go.
Grandparents.
Thank you, Angelica. There's Angie warming up the room. Everybody, don't be shy. We're just warming up, getting in the practice of storytelling. Again, my name is Denise. My mom is from Jalisco, Mexico, and my dad is from Baja California, Mexico. I was born in Monterey Park, which is east of East LA, and raised in Southeast LA. I went to Cal State LA and I got my bachelor's in social work with an emphasis on women and children. And then I went all the way to Chicago, the Windy City. I grew some wings and went to the Windy City and I got my master's in clinical social work with an emphasis on community mental health, working specifically with undocumented women who were transitioning out of abusive situations. And that is what I was doing until I moved back, because a lot of my friends were getting, Hector especially, was getting arrested at the South Central Farm for protecting the land. And so I thought, you know what, it's my time to come back home and give back. And so that is what I did. And it's been a few years and now I play music.
All right. So I want people, so as soon as you're writing, if you're not finished writing, that's okay, right? But we would like you to start wrapping it up. And if you are done, I want you to look at who else is on the chat. I want you to see where other folks are coming from. You can see where the roots are of who's in this chat, right? We got folks out here from Ecuador, right? We got people out here from Puerto Rico. We got Brooklyn in the house. We got Queens in the house. I definitely see some Queens out there, right? We got homies who are Canadian, born up in Canada, speaking German. Scheisse. All right. I'm not gonna tell you youngsters what that means. I'll tell you when you're older. So if we can see from the chat, right? If we can see from the chat right here, we understand one thing is we all come from different places, right? And you can see from the chat we got different faces. And some of us used to wear braces, and some of us still trying to tie our shoelaces, and that's all right. And I think I want to uplift is, for me, my parents are both from Mexico, but growing up, I was not proud to be Mexican. I was not proud of my name Hector. I wanted to change it to Guy. I didn't want to speak Spanish. Um, I was not proud of my roots. I had undocumented parents, and I was not proud of that either. And it took me a long time to really feel secure in my culture and my heritage and my roots. And I share that as someone who was born here and grew up here, because part of our storytelling, we believe, is when you share your story, you give other people the courage to share their story. When you're afraid to share your story, you give other people permission to be afraid to share their story. So the question is, do you want to give people permission to be afraid or to be free? Right? And it's as simple as sharing your story. Right? And so I thank everybody for putting this thing in here. All right. Question number 1. I want to see some hands up. Use an emoji if you can, if you're not showing your face. Raise your hand if you saw the movie Coco. Put your hand up if you saw the movie Coco. Yeah. I see the Foreman family very excited. I love it. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna ask a question. The first person to get it right gets a free churro at Costco. Okay, right here. So here we go. Write it in the chat. Here we go. If you saw the movie Coco, what is the ultimate death? If you saw the movie Coco, which was about, hey, Jose Feliciano in the house. Woo! Yes, Jose. It's a movie about remembering your ancestors. It's a movie where they talked about the ultimate death is being forgotten, right? My father died almost 6 years ago. He passed, but we talk about him all the time. We say his jokes. We remember him on his birthday, on Father's Day, on Christmas. So it's like he never left, right? It's just like on a long vacation. He's not forgotten. He's almost more alive today than ever, right? So, question number 2. If the ultimate death is being forgotten, how does someone get forgotten? How do we forget somebody? Write it in the chat.
Not being remembered.
Foreman family, we die. That's one way. Liz, no voice. What else? Forgetting our elders and the stories. Yes. What else? We stop telling the stories. Yes. It's getting there more. What's something else? How do we forget? Right? So,
Forgetting.
oh, one more time. So I'm going to write in this. So, Las Cafeteras, we play a song called La Bamba. Anybody ever heard the song La Bamba? Right? We play a song La Bamba. La Bamba is a song, is 400 years old. People know the Richie Valens version, but La Bamba is a 400-year-old song. 400 years. How do we still know a song from 400 years ago if back in the day people didn't know how to read, you didn't know how to write, and you didn't have Instagram? How do we still know a song for 400 years ago? We teach each other oral traditions. Yes. Even though people don't know how to read or write, they were able to share the verse, sing the verse, pass it down, right? Pass down the dances, pass down recipes, pass down stories. That's how we remember. And in 2021, we document so much, but we don't remember all that much. We document everything, but we don't remember anything, right? And so I share that, and I want to wrap it up right here with the exercise, where you from. and why it's important for us to share our story as part of the work that we do. If you don't know where you were born, the hospital, the time, the street, who's going to tell your story 400 years from now? 100 years from now? If you don't know where your mama was born, the pueblo, the hospital, the time, the address, who's going to tell your mama's story 400 years from now? 100 years from now? Right? How are they going to know we existed? Right? And so, cafeteras, we're storytellers. But we're here to let you know that you're a storyteller too. No matter if you're 7 years old or 70 years old, you're a storyteller. And the first story you have to really master is your own. And that's our work. Because the more stories we hear, because the United States and America, they like to tell one story of what it is, of who America is. But America is millions of stories. Yours, mine. It's not just history or his story, but it's also her story and your story and my story and our story. And the only way we're going to build the America that is going to reflect all of us is when we share all our stories, whether you're 7 or 70. All right? So I'm going to go on to one more activity and I'm going to pass it on to Denise. I was an organizer, youth organizer for 8 years. And I did work in East LA. And I remember there was a conference in in downtown LA. It was called the State of the East Side, where they were going to talk about how to increase graduation rates because we had one of the highest dropout rates in the whole city. And I remember they invited me to do a presentation, and I started off with an icebreaker. And I told everybody, raise your hand if you know somebody who eats hot Cheetos or Takis every single day. So I'm going to ask everybody right here, raise your hand if you know somebody who eats hot Cheetos or Takis every single day. Raise your hand. All right. A couple of y'all. All right. Hands down. I was in a group of 40 philanthropists, administrators, principals, and lawyers. And not one person raised their hand. And even one of the lawyers said, who would do that? He didn't know anybody who ate hot Cheetos every day. He was like dumbfounded. Like who would do that? The next week, I went to East LA, Esteban y Torres High School. It was a class of 50 students. And I said, hey, how many of you know somebody who eats hot Cheetos or Takis every single day? How many hands do you think went up in that group of 50? I saw like 100 hands go up, like all these red fingertips go up in the air like this. All these red fingertips. I felt like Moses at the Red Sea. I was like, damn, look at that. And what is that? And I share that story with you because what am I trying to highlight right now? What am I trying to elevate between the two communities about those in power and those impacted by those in power? What am I trying to say right now? What happened in that story? You can unmute yourself or you can write it in the chat. But what happened in that story? What do you think? I wrote it to the wrong place. I'm going to write it in the chat. It's the D word. Disconnect. There's a disconnect. Those in power were having a whole conference about how to increase graduation rates and make schools and lives better for students in East LA. But they didn't know one student who ate hot Cheetos every single day. They didn't know what young people ate in the East Side. They didn't know how they lived. They didn't know where they went to go buy food or not buy food, or like there's a disconnect. How are you working, And that's what happens a lot of times in our communities. You have those people making decisions who have the power, but are so disconnected to those who are impacted by the conditions. And if we're going to work in different communities, we got to do this thing called story listening. and story sharing. You got to share your story. You also got to listen to someone else's. There's a saying that the universe gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth because we're supposed to listen twice as much as we talk, right? And I share that story with you because I see that across the country. I see that those in power and decision makers, the best decision makers are the ones who are most connected to the community, right? And I love to see that the fact that right here we have some great leaders here. We got Shelly right here, we got Angie right here, folks we've been working with, to make this thing happen, who are listening to the stories of people, So I wanted to uplift that as right before I pass it on. And thank you so much for participating in the chat. Denise, I want you to take it away from here.
I love this space. It's been a long time, y'all. When you're not on a stage, you're able to reflect and focus. And I think like Hector and myself, we used to do so much of this, right? Before the stage was anything, any reality in our life. We're often called a political band. And that's kind of funny for us, right? Like a political band, interesting. And the thing is, we didn't ever set out to be a band first, and second, a political band, right? And when people ask like, well, what's, ¿cuál es el propósito de las cafeteras? Like, what is your main goal? And I think for me, what I like to say is that it's what we do is a love letter to our community, right? And when I think about organizing, when I think about people congregating to talk about the ills of the world, right? As a social worker, we do that too. And my dad used to be like, why do you want to listen to people's problems all day? Right? And I'm like, you just don't get it, Dad. But the root of the you don't get it, Dad, was that our realities were different, right? I was privileged enough to be able to have the time to think about the difference we can make, right? My dad was on a survival mode and I was a different mode. And I think that the seed of organizing, right? The seed of asking, like, what can be different is love for self, love for our neighbors and our communities, but also the hope, right? That we can do better. And that we can do better so that we can be better. At the end of the day, it's very simple, right? But at the same time, we are part of a legacy, right? As Las Cafeteras, we're not reinventing anything, right? We are learning from the past, and we understand that we're a part of a legacy in movement building, in coalition building, in solidarity work, and in intersectional work, right? Where we are at a crossroads with my life, my existence, right? And your life and your existence. How am I privileged and how am I marginalized? And we need to show up in our full selves to truly, truly listen to each other. And so one of the songs that is one of my favorite songs that we created and Hector actually wrote, it's called It's Movement Time. And the reason I love this song is because I'm learning about movements in the past that I never learned about in school, right? Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And that's real, at least for people of color, people that, don't have necessarily adequate education, but we don't have to reinvent the wheel. At the same time, we can take what serves us, leave what doesn't, and create something different for ourselves and for each other together. And so I would love for us to watch this together. It's movement time. And I want you to pay attention. What are things that you never learned about? What are things that you're inspired by? And how can we take the lessons of folks who organized before us so that we can use that, utilize it in building together for the future. So this is It's Movement Time.
What time is it? It's movement time. What time is it? It's movement time. We're gonna hit them streets like my brothers banging beats, cause it's movement time, movement time. We're gonna hit them poles cause we out of control, cause it's movement time, movement time. Gonna stand up for my sisters against all these misters, movement time, movement time. I ain't the type to fight, but I gotta do what's right, cause it's movement time, movement time. Yo, cause the Underground Railroad also ran south, which led black folks to freedom with Mexico right there to receive them.
1910, it was Pancho Villa and Zapata fighting for tierra, libertad y techo. Adelitas on the front line with bullets across their pecho. 1946, it was the Mendez family that fought against segregation in schools. Cause before that, they treated us like fools, pushing us out into gangs, wars, and drugs. Get pissed off when we become Crips and Bloods, Pachucos, Traviesos, Hipoperas, Bomberas, Jaraneras in the street with the bomb-ass beat, talking about what's going on in my LA streets, yo. Cause we gonna hit them streets like my brother banging me, cause it's movement time. It's movement time. We gonna hit them poles cause they out of control, cause it's movement time. Movement time. In the 60s in Oakland, California, Black Panthers organized for answers. In New York, the young lords fought against wars. Stonewall rebellion remained true for the rights of the LGBTQ. Aim down with native rights, no shame in their game. In the campos of California, it was Filipinos who first laid down the boycott, screaming in solidarity, Isang Baksak, one rise, one fall. You come for one, you come for all. You come for one, you come for all. Rah, rah. But see, today, Arizona and Alabama, they don't play. They carving out racist laws like it's made out of clay. I stand with Emmett, Trayvon, Oscar, and Bell, with my homeboy Mobia held in the cell, telling you I'd rather be blind than to stay quiet on the day when my people are hunt like prey. So I'm gonna stand right here for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Emmett Till, and all my folks right here, cause they got a story to tell. And we gotta stand with our brothers and sisters, y'all. We gotta stand with our brothers and sisters, y'all. This song goes out to Advancement Project and all the organizations doing work. Thank you all for the work you're doing. Here we go. Yo, cause we gonna stick to beats like my brothers banging beats, cause it's movement time. It's movement time. We gonna hit them poles cause they out of control, cause it's movement time. Movement time. I ain't the type to fight, but I gotta do what's right, cause it's movement time. Movement time. Movement time. Una.
Y'all can snap that video up. I love it. I feel like it's an audio book, right? One of my favorite comment or things that he says in that is Isan Baksak, one rise, one fall. You come for one, you come for all. And I feel like that just, it embodies the understanding that we're doing this as a community. Right. And Angie or Shelly, I know you've been doing this work. I'm not sure if anyone here wants to share a reflection, but I know Angie and Shelly, you all were talking about that, right? About us rising up as leaders in our community. I'm not sure if y'all had any reflections on how this speaks to the conversations that y'all have been having in your sessions. Everyone's thinking.
I'll chime in, and everybody feel free, especially those who get a star for showing up to all of the sessions. So thank you. I see some people that have been here every single day of the week. I think it's definitely time, even with the education workshops and the philanthropy workshop, it's time to give young leaders an opportunity and trust them and give them a voice and empower them. So that's what I'm thinking, that it's movement time, and we just have to figure out how to do it and come together. So that's what I'm feeling from this week.
If anybody else wants to unmute themselves and also just share like what resonate with you with that video, or what popped out for you, or like.
For sure. I saw a lot of nodding and a lot of focus.
For me, coming out of this afternoon's panel as a moderator, I think back to some of what the other panelists were saying that was resonating with both the audience and with me, about the fact that the pandemic, right, allowed us this forced pause where it forced us to stop, to look, to listen at the things that, right, the rush of everyday life sort of allowed us the privilege to ignore, depending on where we were coming from. And we all had segments of life, right, that we ignored in the rush of the before times, as it were, before COVID. And now, sort of in the thick of things, right, that slowdown, that pause, allowing time for not just the reflection, but being able to hear those stories and see those stories that we may have had a previous opportunity to look aside from or not focus on. The excuses were sort of gone in the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I think like we couldn't do anything but witness what was happening, right? Everyone was in limbo and we were watching and listening and hearing. I know the Foreman family, you have something to share?
Yeah, so when when you were saying movement time, it made me think of all the great movements that happened, and it's important that we talk about those movements, because talking about something helps another thing.
Yes, thank you so
What is your
much.
name? It says Foreman, unless Foreman is your name. Your first name. Bell.
Adele Foreman. And Rose.
Adele and Rose, thank you so much for sharing, for sure. And I know we have Victoria here. We're trying to put Black lives in, and then truth dropped from the youth. Yes, for sure. We are learning, siempre caminando y preguntando, right? Walking forward and always asking questions. But to the point of Jose Feliciano, who's actually one of my favorite singers, I'm sure you get that a lot. Hector, if you want to, introduce why and how we wrote the next clip, when Jose, one of our drummers, said, when you can't go out, you go in, right? And so there was a lot of reflection. Hector, tell us a little bit about that.
I think we go right into it. I want people to just watch it, and then without when someone tells you
About a
all
movie?
about a movie, and then they tell you everything about the movie, and then you're like, all right, I've already seen it, and they're like, go watch it. I'm like, oh, you told me everything. That I don't want to feel like that. So this next thing right here, we did it during quarantine, and it'll speak for itself. And then I'd love to hear what resonated from you after watching it.
What time is it? It's moving.
Oh, whoa, whoa. I'm like, whoa, is that Groundhog Day?
We ran to be free. We ran to heal. We ran to live. We are free. We understand our worth and our value. I have the right to play in a park. I have the right to drive. I have the right to breathe. I have the right to wear a hoodie with Skittles hanging out my back pocket, bend over to tie my shoelaces and not get killed. I have the right to go for a run in my neighborhood and not get killed because my life matters. We run to make you see us. You can't break us that easily, you see, because we've been running for generations, becoming scholars, leaders, healthcare workers, entrepreneurs, becoming athletes, artists, educators, change makers. We are love, and we won't stop. We will continue to live and embody all that we were born to be. And so we keep dancing, we keep singing, we keep chanting, we keep marching, writing, praying, fighting, running until we win. And we will win.
So I want to just open up the space a little bit and just what did that bring up for anybody? Going through the workshops, having these conversations, what did this video bring up?
I'll share. Both videos brought up for me was how important it is to feel empowered. you know, and to feel powerful when I'm taking something on that feels bigger than me. And how important it, like, I really feel like everyone's artistic gifts, we all have artistic gifts, were put inside of us to fortify us. And so like I see an artistic gift being shared and shown like that, and it makes me feel powerful, like I'm ready to go. So that's what it brought up for me.
Yeah. Anybody else? Did you bring up anything? You know, so so I'll share our drummer Cano is someone who's not, he doesn't say a lot. That's why he's a drummer. He's in the back. You know, it's hard for him to share. But he's a runner. So he's been running since high school. He ran in college. His mama runs. His sister runs. Like, they're a running family. And, you know, in quarantine, when it happened and everything just sort of shut down, it had sort of this emotional, mental sort of break where, man, you didn't know what to do, right? I think all sectors of life, people didn't know what to do. But there was still this ever-present violence that was still being inflicted on people. And so then the story of Ahmaud Arbery's murder happened, a black man running in the street, and he was followed and killed because, you know, he was running. So for our drummer, who's a runner, he was like, it struck a chord with him. And he's like, man, I run every day. Well, my mama runs. My sister runs. And it moved him and it pushed him to do something. And so he, you know, we had done work with this Afro-Latino dance company called Contratiempo, and said, I want to do this song, and I'd love to see movement. And, you know, how do you move to this? Because I don't move. And can you do movement? And then he asked one of the members to do a poetry, a song, a poem, and asked different friends to send in videos. And he made this thing, and it was so beautiful when I first saw it, and it pushed me out of my funk. It pushed me to be like, you know what? What am I doing? What is my role right now? You know, my life isn't about touring. You know, my life is about creating. My life is about making art, something from nothing, right? Reflecting the world, like what, you know. And when I saw what he did, it pushed me then to, like, you know, it, like, to create and remember my role at this time, right? There's a saying, stars only shine in the dark, you know. And so, like, the darker the night, the brighter the stars, right? And so when you think it's really dark outside, right, like it's kind of felt in quarantine, and kind of felt with all this sort of injustice, it can get real dark. That's our time to shine, right? That's our time to really glow and see others who are trying to shine as well and connect and build, right? And so we want to show this as one, because this is an example of how we are trying to create art in these times. Daniel French in our crew, he always says, when you don't know what to do, you create art. If you don't know what to do, make art, and that'll help you, you know? And so for us, you know, you can, and for us, it's about making art and then passing stories. And you can pass your stories by food, photography, movement, song, dance, right? Documentation, writing. There's so many ways to share stories. And we did that in the chat. We saw where people were coming from, their roots. Like, that work, let this time allow you to dig into that and figure out how you want to share your story in this world at this time, in this lifetime, right? So we shared that with you. And Cano's video then propelled us to do much more projects and do more collaborative work, which then came out to this next video right here.
Si fuera presidente, oh, oh, si fuera presidente, if I was a president, if I was
was a president,
si fuera presidente.
Here we go.
Let me be the chief executive and settle the score. Stop working people till they raggedy, then asking for more. Open doors, cut the pipeline to prison that's been stealing our men. Educate the whole nation about the skin that I'm in. Black woman, stay safe and watch me do it again. Clear the cash, put the cash where it's evidently necessary. More than fried food and booze, open some libraries. Stand with my fellow man.
If I was commander-in-chief, I'd preach peace. A college education would be free. I close the wage gap and pay back indigenous peeps, and cops would have to live in the streets they policed. Teacher salaries will be like NBA players. Social workers and physicians getting great favor. Raise minimum wage, no more slave labor. And federal officials can't be great traders. Nah.
If I was a president, si fuera presidente. If I was a president. If I was a president, si fuera presidente.
If they ain't good, then what are we? Not just who we claim to be. Then we hiding under sheets. Honesty, integrity, that's what a leader breeds. Pull up the roots of this truth, put down some new seeds. A free Mumia and my people shut down fighting for freedom. Dismantle the message that make you think it's cool. To tell a woman about her body and what she can and can't do. Break the glass ceiling and shine through.
A fair and balanced legislation. I'm instituting automatic voter registration. Next, I'm on the move, reversing mass incarceration. Putting more funding into rehabilitation. Expunging low-level drug offenses. Opening the cages and tearing down the fences. Ensuring that no person ever be illegal. And then I step down and give the power to the people.
No more war, no more fear. It's time to thrive. The change is near, yeah, yeah. Me gusta la lima, me gusta limón. Pero no me gusta tanta corrupción.
My first lady would beat my mom, cause she'd smack me in the head if I was dropping bombs. Free my poor black and brown kids in them cages. Then go to Congress, raise all the wages. Finally buy a car, all cash, no lease. Then I to the mayors. Universal health care, no hesitation. Then I text the 1% new age plantation.
If I was a president, si fuera presidente. If I was a president. If I was a president, si fuera presidente.
If this was truly the land of the free and the brave, instead of stolen ground built by the hand of enslaved, and if the justice system worked on behalf of the people, then maybe my leadership could create the future we crave. I'ma let the money talk, yeah, the reparations do. Let's rebuild the wealth and see what the next generations do. Funnel the resources to places the government orphan and criminalize their offspring for the head of their baby faces. Screw, I'm trying to give them access to education and excess. Redistribute the equity so the working people checks less. Qualified immunity, abolish all them dirty politicians, lawyers, cops who can handle. Let's address this. Liberate the freedom fighters in the private prison game. Grant the native nations sacred space on sovereign terrain. Give the people healthy food, clean water, hold the ice, and see what's possible when you let the poppers ponder over hope. It's like rock, rock, rock.
Bars. Woo! Bars. I love it. I love it. I love it. Cool. You know, we're gonna open up the space a little bit. We're gonna open up the space a little bit for questions and answers, but this is an example of Cafeteras trying to build collaborations and solidarity. Except for Quetzal, I didn't know any of the other rappers. I didn't know Ciroc from Atlanta. I didn't know Mega Ran. I didn't know Book Brown, but I knew I wanted to work with people in swing. So the idea was work with people in swing states, get rappers, specifically black female rappers. I wanted at least 2 black female rappers. And if I wanted them, I had to go find them. So I had to go ask different rappers, ask different community organizers, yo, who's killing it? I'm looking for a black femc. And so we had to go, find funding, find rappers, because we wanted to put a collaborative project for the elections. We wanted to bring together swing states, and I shared that because, I didn't know these folks before this project, but I wanted to work with folks. And so sometimes if you don't, you got to create things. You got to ask around. You got to, who do you want to work with? Well, then find out who knows them, right? It's 2021. We can slip into somebody's DM, And so I share that because, like, this stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. Right? Like, we have to create. All these projects came from people just wanting to create. And sometimes if you can't create something from nothing, then nobody going to give you anything. Let me say that one more time. If you can't create something from nothing, ain't nobody going to give you anything. right? You have to have the ganas and you have to have the will to say you want to do something, whether it be community change or whether it be music or anything. You got to show that you want to see that happen, right? And so we trying to do it in quarantine. Yo, we didn't have no gigs. We didn't have no touring. We ain't got no money. And we created more in quarantine than the last 3 years because we realized that we actually didn't need, we had a lot of connections, friends, and we actually had a lot of resources. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of sense. We had a lot of comments in. See how I did that right there? It was a little double.
You're good. Are you a writer?
That was nice, right?
I did want to share, this song was inspired by a son jarocho song. That's a traditional song in Veracruz, Mexico, called Señor Presidente. And son jarocho is hundreds of years old. But even hundreds of years ago, people were asking presidents of all their countries and saying, you know what, like we need something better from leaders, right, in our countries. And we take it like leaders in your home, right? Leaders in your relationship, leaders in your community. We're all leaders and people are always looking to us. So very simply, we just said, you know what, like a lot of the work we do as activists is resisting, right? And it's protesting. What if we focus on creating a world that we want to see? What would we do if we were president? Right? And so that's why we said, if we were president, what would you do? Right? Y siempre preguntamos eso wherever we go. And it's funny because most of the time when we ask adults, nadie dice nada, everyone's all shy. Nobody, I mean, I'm sure you say it in your dinner table, right? I would do this and I would do that and I would do this. But all of a sudden we're on a public platform and nobody wants to say what they're gonna do. But we go to preschools, we go to elementary schools and we ask the kids, what would you do if you were president? And there is so many things, right? From save the animals to no more homeless people to pizza every day at lunch. We get it all. But that's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is that joy, liberation looks different for so many people. But imagine if most of us got what we wanted, right? I'm going to give a shout out because I know there's people on Facebook that are tuning in. So the Aime, Valeria, Elsa, Miriam, Mariela, Mari Carmen are tuning in from Facebook. So thank you all so much for being here. Muchas gracias. Y tenemos mucha gente de Ecuador, de México y de Guatemala. Y la pregunta que tenemos para ustedes es, ¿qué quisieron ustedes ver de una presidencia? No nomás de sus países, pero la presidencia aquí en los Estados Unidos, que está creada para servirle al pueblo, right? Presidents and leaders are here to serve the people. So, ¿qué les gustaría ver a ustedes que la presidencia tome en cuenta o que, en qué se enfoque? Ooh, I was doing real good with my Spanish until like right now. But please, like, what would you do if you were president? What would you like to see from the leaders of your country? Because that's really the question that we have for if I was president. Jose Feliciano dice, thinking out loud, the power of radical imagination. How do we imagine and create our future, and what does creation look like? Well,
I think you said it right there, Carlos. It'd be like, everybody, if you put in the chat, if you were president for one day, what is the one thing? I mean, it's probably a lot of things, but what's one thing you would do that would make life better for everybody? What would be that one thing? I want you to write it in the chat right here. That's right. For me, I remember I had a root canal and I didn't have a dentist and I had to go to Tijuana, so for me, like, yo, dental, is for me, dental for everybody, that would be the first thing I do. I'd make sure everybody had dental, right? But right in chat, universal health care, pay teachers what they're worth, universal health care, hell yeah, forget dental, let's do it all, right? Immigration reform, most definitely. My parents were undocumented when they came to this country. Denise's parents were undocumented when they came to the country. And hard work and opportunity, and they built families. They're successful. They had kids who are not only good looking, you know what I mean, but we're into college too, and we graduated. And you give people opportunity, and they will shine. And they will shine. Our parents are examples of that. We're examples of that. You're examples of that. right? And so for us, yes, immigration reform, you know. One of La Bamba, we say, yo no creo en fronteras. We don't believe in borders, but not just the physical borders, the borders of the mind. If you got border in your heart, then you can have a border out there. If you have a border in your mind, you can have a border out there, right? And there's a lot of borders that we build up in communities, in classrooms, right? And those are the borders we're talking about, the borders of the mind that keep us from talking. So we're going to open it up right now.
We have
Anybody?
5 minutes, everyone. So if you have a burning question, a burning comment, if anything's burning, take care of it.
Yeah, there's creams for that, actually.
That's right, there's pomaditas for that. Yeah. Pero si tienen preguntas, me gusta que acá las muchachas tenían sus comentarios de una reforma migratoria, pero hasta eso, ¿qué quiere decir para ustedes una reforma migratoria, right? We're manifesting dreams here, we're putting it out there, and we got to be specific, right? But does anyone have any questions before we head out for the day? I know y'all are shy, warming it up. We're going to be back to talk to the youth of INTEMPO, but we're very grateful for this space. No questions? Hector's a Leo. I think he talked about that already. I'm a Scorpio.
And she's a natural redhead.
This is not my natural hair color, but I bought it, so it's mine. Anyone else?
I have a question from earlier today. Denise, some of our panel said, how do we organize? Like, can you tell us a little about how you started with organizing, and how can the leaders here, the nonprofit organization leaders here, empower their kids, teach, train their students, train their staff, train themselves into the importance of organizing?
Pan dulce and cafe go a long way, girl. Pizza night, I think for us, like a lot of it, we're starting the organization, the Eastside Cafe, where we started playing music. It wasn't a building. We always said it's not a place, it's a state of mind. And it started with plática. It started with un cafecito. It started with, we should probably fix the street. Why isn't there better lunches at schools? So I don't know, like Hector has more specific organizing experience than I do. But what I do know, as someone that wasn't necessarily a leader creating space, but a participant, was that food, chisme and plática were always the roots of that, and also dreaming together, right? So Hector, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, so I'll give 2 examples. We talked about it earlier. So one example is depending on where you want to organize and who you're organizing. Is if you're organizing a school, if you're organizing a block, a community. One thing for us is like, it's really understanding having these pláticas. So I would say like have an initial couple of pláticas, but identifying what people really want to take on, right? And developing a survey would be hella dope. And now they have like electronic surveys. I know like change.org, you can do petitions and surveys and things like that. But being able to gather data on things that people want to see happen is so important. So then when you actually show up to a school board member, a city council, neighborhood watch, whoever, a senator, you actually have data. 1,500 people signed this petition saying they want to have this thing happen, right? We have 2,000 people that signed up and said they would like to see more arts invested in this community, in this park. They'd like to see a soccer field over here, whatever it is. But you have to identify what it is, because it's too big. It's like Netflix. You turn on Netflix, there's too many movies, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm going to watch, so I'm actually not going to watch anything. That's how it feels. That's how community organizing can feel. It's so big. So it's really identifying the top 3 things that you could take on, right? And then you think about levels. Based on the 3 things, what's a low-hanging fruit? What's something that you definitely know is resonating with people you could take on within 6 months and a year? Then you think about the second thing, right? But that 1 year that you're trying to do that low-hanging fruit, you're building membership. You're building public opinion, right? You're getting organized. So then you can take on the second tier. The second thing I would do is trainings. Just because you have an organization doesn't mean you're trained to train people, right? So I was trained, in the Bay Area. So I was sent to the Bay Area. I went to the School of Unity and Liberation, where I was trained to be an organizer. So they have training programs across the country. The Center for Story-Based Strategy, CSS, they do work around how to develop messaging and communication strategies to better message and communicate your campaign, right? In a way that's relevant, that's cultural, right? That whatever it is that resonates. So I feel like training is really important for your leadership. And so what is your leadership lacking? And not in a negative way, but what is somewhere you need to grow? And send people to get trained. Send the top 3 people to get trained, come back, and they train 15 or 20 people, right? So I think training and youth development is so important, and that doesn't always happen in your organization. That can be outsourced. You can bring people, send folks out, right? Like I think those are really important. So I would say 2 is develop your priorities that you really want to impact and connect, a strategic plan of how you're going to reach those top 3 things in the next 6 months to 3 years, right? Because organizing takes time. Organizing is building relationships. And the second thing is training your staff and young people you're going to work with intentionally, right? Putting funds behind training so people know how to actually engage, communicate, organize, track, phone bank. I used to, when I was an organizer, I would phone bank 3 to 4 times a week, right? And so if you don't have money to have commercials like McDonald's, well then get on the, phone banking was a great way to do it, right? And now people don't have phones no more. So what's the other way we're following up with people, right? So I think getting trained is really important. So those are 2 ways that I would recommend for any community. 1, because I don't know exactly what you're doing, but.
Wonderful. Cafeteras, this has been just such an enjoyable evening. Thank you so much. On behalf of INTEMPO, on behalf of all of our partners and presenting partners, educational partners and families here and educators in this room, we want to say thank you so much for your energy. It's been just so re-energizing. I'm, awake again and ready to go for a run too. So thank you. We can't wait to meet you all in person in 2022 in New Haven. So everybody that was here, let's ask Shelly and ask her to give us VIP passes to
Hey, come on, Shelly.
At the New Haven Green in 2022. So you're all invited for that. I want to say thank you all so much for tuning in all of these days, all of these times. There will be a poll going in right now. It will really help us get, so much information, like Hector was saying, data, and getting, your feedback so that we can all come together and do a better job at sharing our stories and storytelling as well. So please take a moment to fill this out. If you want to be involved in Voices and Actions 2.0, the next project, please send us an email, contact us via Facebook, email, our website, any social media that we're on. Let us know and say, hey, Angie, I want to be involved with Voices and Actions wherever you are. So wherever you are in Connecticut, wherever you are in the country, please let us know if you want to be involved, because it's happening, and hopefully we'll have Cafeteras again for our second workshop. If you are working with students too, I see definitely a lot of schools and other youth organizations. Please let us know if you want to be part of Las Cafeteras Youth Workshop as well, coming soon. So thank you all so much. Have a great evening. Cuídense mucho. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Es la bamba rebelde que cantaré porque somos chicanos de